State Management in ASP.NET. In this session, we learn about state management in ASP.NET and its usage. Basically, we know the term about that state management and the usage of ASP.NET only. Later sessions, we have a clear detailed explanation about one by one the state management used terms and all. ASP.NET State Management is the process by which you created web forms and maintain the state of the page. That information, the page, how it is handled and operated by the user, what he wants to require, what are the data we are presenting at the page loaded in the client side browser, and maybe further the information may require for the client, or he wants to do some activities with that data, and how we need to handle that data carefully and utilizing to updating the database if required, and if it is not used data and state remain the same. Likewise, questions may arise in the data while interacting with the database web applications. For all will be answered in this session. And now see here, once if the data from the web form is maintained the state and page information over multiple requests from the same or different pages to the server. For any HTTP based technology, web forms, web pages are stateless, which means they have to not automatically indicate that the request in a sequence are all from the same client, or even a single browser instance is still actively viewing a page or site. See, many requests came to the server from the many different geographical way to approaching the server to getting the data or getting the application access to the browsers of the web page. In such way, which user is having his own page and some other user is having his own page, and they might have different pages. Someone is having his profile page and someone is trying to submitting the request of the application form. Likewise, many forms and many users and many things may goes onto the web application. To handling each and every user and each and every page is important to the end users. Likewise, it's as much important to the web application to handling such a data and grouping the data and appropriately updating to that particular user's records on the database is also that much of very much important. If it's happening anything wrong to handling such a situations in web application manner, someone data will be goes to the someone to the update, and some data is malfunctioning and some data is wrongly updated to the server, and someone is logged in his own name and showing some other's name. Likewise will happens at the client side browser. So avoid such all the things and grouping and forming the uniformity for all the web pages and maintaining such a state management technique which is implemented in ASP.NET Visual Studio along with the framework mechanism and technologies. We can easily handle such a situations of huge traffic is occurring to the server. See, ASP.NET provides multiple ways to hold state between server round trips of the page lifecycle, which for these options you choose depends heavily upon your application, and it should be based on the following standard way. Why we need to use state management services while developing web applications? See here, the quantity of the information you want to store, why we require to maintain the state management techniques, and why we need to implement our ASP.NET web application. We need to focus the main points. It's very important points. How much quantity of data information I want to store and stay with the client side browser page. That state management by using. And does the client accept the persistent or in-memory cookies? If that client, if it is not accepted the cookies, And like a cookie means, you know that, as you know that persistent cookies are there, non-persistent cookies are there. To a little bit of information can be stored at the client's place, that client mission, and if it is not accepted, that functionality will not work. Likewise, hence most of the things how the developer needs to think, like to build a web application, he need not to have such a more and more questions to stop the application. He has enough flexibility to develop a web application which is completely acceptable and run the majority of the people. And third point, where do you want to store the page information, either server side or client side? Which information is I required to place at server side or client side? And is there the storing information is sensitive? If I am storing a client side information, whether it is a sensitive means you are stored information. If it is having a bank password, how you will going to store at client's browser's place? It's highly risk. And such a passwords, and what performance and bandwidth levels do you have for your application? For if you are storing huge information at a client's browser place, there is a low bandwidth area is there who are accessing your web application, then how your huge data will load into that browser's place? Will it take much time if it is loaded? Will the users will stay with your application? Don't you think about it? And what are the capabilities of the browsers and devices that you are going to be targeting? Whether you have a specific browser to work on your web application, or you have to require more users and more friendly, like any browser, any device that my application may work. Then based on that, you have to work on that, take the state management techniques to implement. Do you require user-wise information to be stored at client side on state mode, mode of state management? How long do you need to store the information at state management itself? Will it be permanently stay, or if the page is moved from that page to another page, that client will be the information will be remain same, or it will be terminated from that page from the either client side or server side? Will you need to maintain or prepare for that any mechanism for that? Are you using multiple servers or single process that serves the application? Yes, all the questions will be answered in ASP.NET State Management technique. See, to answer all these questions, ASP.NET provides solutions. Will see one by one how it is. In state management options, separated client side and server side management techniques, where we can implement and use the technology of Microsoft. Now we will discuss about these things. State management techniques. There is a client side and server side. The segregation of client side is view state management technique, control state management technique, hidden fields, cookies, query string. And server side, application state, session state, in-proc, state server, and SQL server. For the server side database connections, the purpose of SQL server we are implementing using this word here to know about the state management techniques. We will discuss in glance how it will happen, what will happen in the server side and all. We'll see. In client side, view state means client page, web page is loaded on the browser. Then view state management techniques will be give you a boost value. Then only the view state management technique is implemented. Once the user data is getting from the server, and we'll plan to place it view state, and from there from the view state only we can use and reusing the data from the view state itself. We need not to go to the server and getting the data again and again if the required data is available in the view state. Based on that, you need to plan accordingly and fill the data on the view state. Like user ID, like a user specific registration number. If that number, the user logged in and having an accessing of the page, whenever he is logged in, he required the page, that user ID is always required for all the users. Irrespective to that, independent user who is logged in, that data we are collecting the data and the information we are storing at the client side view state only. And sometime we have to cross check that data once we have getting the data from the server, and we will cross check with the view state data. And control state, we have to control that state is stable or not. And hidden fields, that the hidden fields will, with some data we need not to show all the data to the end user. They may not understand even. For example, I am using a unique number for the transaction, which is required for the unique identity to my bank transactions or transaction file. And based on that unique number only, I am doing the performances dot particular user ID or user record or file or any of the data transaction. Like that particular data, I'll pull to the client browser side and I'll make it as a hidden field, and appropriately whenever I require, I'll attach to the query to that hidden field and I'll send to the database. For that the purpose, I am using the hidden field, and the client doesn't require what is that it's happening and all. You are planning to showing and presenting the data, what is his name and mobile number and email, such things only. He need not what it's going on the behind the application. Cookies, this is the security of to implementing of the cookies are there, persistent, non-persistent, permanent, non-permanent, like that. And more information we'll have in a upcoming session. Query string, to pass the parameter from the client sides to another page or to open another form with the help of some of the validated user inputs to pass the parameters from the client side, we can use the query string. In come to the server side validation, like state management, application state is there and session state. It's a very important of session state. Once the user is logged in, we will maintain the user name and user some data which is to validate for the next validation of the another pages. And the session will have once the user is logged out. If also we can check it whether he is logged in after 30 minutes, we need to sign out the user and he need to log in again. Based on that, our application is designed. We will, once the user is logged in, we will initiate the session with the login entry time, and we will check it once he is changed the page or he is moving from one page to another page. That time also, simple technique, we can check it whether he is logged in time is more than 30 or less than 30, less than or equal to 30 or not. If it is less than or 30 is satisfied, we will load the page. If it is not, we will push out to login session page, and will throw the message to the user state saying that your session is expired. Login and continue with your session by entering the password or something to reinitiate the session from there itself. And session parameters entire the life cycle of the user pages. He can avail the session parameters one by one, which is created on the session level. Likewise, in control the validation of web.vals and pages of the user in method of web.config. In state server, the server level state where he has to be maintained at the state level of the page. Likewise, in the SQL server, to maintain the connection of the database, to establishing the connection of the database and pulling the data and updates using the DDL, DML commands, as you know and aware of the SQL server database queries, and perform the SQL server side action activities and all. These are the state management techniques which we need to implement to develop a web application to handle such a huge, from beginning to advanced, huge level of requirements of the hits it is received the server. We can easily handle if we understand the state management techniques. I hope you better understand about these techniques. We will have a great sessions with the client side as well as server side independently, which are important, like state management, state, view state, session state, query string, hidden fields, cookies, as well as server side SQL. Thank you for watching this session. Thank you.